Welcome to the Big Book Roundtable of the RICO 12 family of recovery resources targeted at anyone, anywhere with any affliction that resembles the affliction of alcoholism and those who love those. So grateful to be a part of this project. I just see my higher power just pointing me at different things, and it's such a blessing and humbling actually to be a part of this and other projects, and to be joined by Nikki M and David G, some of my favorite people on earth who once again point me towards that solution and help me stay on this path. So and by the way, I'm Justin. I am a recovering addict. I have multiple fellowships, and I'm living in the miraculous one day at a time recovery promised in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous as I strive to walk this path. So let's introduce Nikki and David, my panelists who I just adore and am so grateful to be connected with in this journey. Nikki, why don't you introduce yourself real quick?
Hi, everybody. And it seems I'm on the love boat here with my buddies. The love boat. I'm Nikki M. And no, I'm not a singer. I'm a child of God. And according to my big book, I'm an intelligent agent spearhead. And I'm just so grateful to be in the solution, getting pumped up with my guys on this love fest, this love journey. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. David, you're up.
Hey everybody, my name's David G. I'm an alcoholic addict of many sorts, living in Oklahoma in the USA. Been given the gift of recovery since August 8th of 1994. And just piggyback on what they said, I love these guys, man. They're such an important part of my journey. They have been for a long time and will continue to be for a long time to come. So thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Nikki. All right, today we are going to continue our journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous in the chapter Into Action. We'll be reading a few paragraphs on page 79 and 80 and discussing those. So everybody grab your highlighter, your pen, your big book, fourth edition of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and let's learn about the solution. Let's learn about getting into action once we have made that connection with a power greater than self. All right, we're going to start at the paragraph that begins with usually, however, other people are involved. And we'll read through the top of page 80. The bottom of that first paragraph indicated we must not shrink. All right, here we go with our reading. Usually, however, other people are involved. Therefore, we are not to be the hasty and foolish martyr who would needlessly sacrifice others to save himself from the alcoholic pit. A man we know had been remarried. Because of resentment and drinking, he had not paid alimony to his first wife. She was furious. She went to court and got an order for his arrest. He had commenced our way of life, had secured a position, and was getting his head above water. It would have been impressive heroics if he had walked up to the judge and said, "Here I am." We thought he ought to be willing to do that if necessary, but if he were in jail, he could provide nothing for either family. We suggested he write his first wife, admitting his faults and asking forgiveness. He did, and he also sent a small amount of money. He told her what he would try to do in the future. He said he was perfectly willing to go to jail if she insisted. Of course, she did not, and the whole situation has long since been adjusted. Before taking drastic action which might implicate other people, we secure their consent. If we have obtained permission, if we have obtained permission, have consulted with others, ask God to help, and the drastic step is indicated, we must not shrink. All right. So from these few paragraphs here, we're going to jump in and just kind of see where it takes us and what this means from where we've left off this last time. Nikki, why don't you start us off today and share with us some of the things that jump out at you as we read those paragraphs.
Oh, thank you so much, Justin. And I'm just so grateful to be going through this because everybody, if you're just joining us, I'm in year 13 and I'm literally having this experience going line by line through the big book with these two earth angels for the first time. I did not do that with my sponsor, and I've been in the big book a long time. So this is not an overnight matter. I just want to put that preface there that time takes time. So, yes, I'm in the disease of alcoholism. So definitely other people are involved. I'm a love addict. I'm a sex and love addict, so there's a lot of people involved. I like to take people hostage. And it says right here, like the book will tell me what to do. I'm not to be hasty and foolish. I'm not to be a martyr. I'm not to sacrifice others to save myself. Okay, that means don't throw people under the bus. I'm from Orange County, California originally. You'll go to jail for being a rat. Okay, like you just don't rat on other people. This is, this is how to live life. This is a design for living. They give an example, and we all know these examples. A man had been remarried. I have 2 baby daddies. There we go. I've never been married, but I got 2 baby daddies. And I love this promise because this is what happens when you stay here. You do commence this way of living. It says, he commenced this way of life. That's a promise. Here's another promise. You secure your position. You get all those things back, everybody. You get even better things back. And you get your head above water. So you start getting these things back. This happened to me, right? And it says it would have been impressive heroics if you just walked up and say, here I am. I think I said on the last episode that we did, this was written a long time ago. So there's a lot of moving parts. This isn't small town, ma and pop things. We're living in the Industrial Revolution right now where I'm just a number. I don't even think I have a face to people sometimes. And so you do not want to lead with the chin. We read that a few pages back, leading with the chin, especially me. I'm arrogant. I found that out in my 4th step, false pride. I've got to get humble. So it says right here, we thought there's the word willing. You have to be willing to do whatever. We read that. Be willing to do anything necessary, even go to jail. And I love here, this book tells us what to do. Told him to write. I always tell people to put things in black and white on paper, not just for a 4th step. See, it's too big in your head. Write things down, write letters. It says, put pen to paper, black and white, shrink it down, admit your faults, right? I've got to admit my faults. This person admitted his faults, asking forgiveness. This is where they ask us to get honest. This is a radically honest program. And send a small amount. You got to start somewhere. He said a small amount of something. Start somewhere. You've got to take baby steps. And he told her what he was going to do in the future. I said in the last episode, and sponsoring other addictions that you don't have is fascinating. I sponsor a gambler. Gamblers kill themselves, everybody. That's what they do. They kill themselves when they don't have the money. And he got into fear. He owed a bunch of money and he just didn't do any of the things he was supposed to do. And so then you're back to square one. I said it was that 10,000-pound phone. Call, set up an arrangement, and it will work out because it always does. Willing to go to jail. That's what it says. Are you willing to go to jail? We're going to read on the next page, and that's where I want to get to on page 80. Are you willing to go to jail, Nikki? Because I was doing things illegally at work. So were my coworkers. So here it is on page 80. Before taking drastic action, which is the amends. See, before I could do the amends and I was willing to go to my boss and go to quote unquote jail, whatever, I was willing to be fired, whatever it takes, which might implicate other people. I couldn't even be willing to do my amends because other people are involved. So right there, I can't even do the amends that I wanted to because other people are involved. I would have to secure their consent. That means I have to get a yes. I cannot get a yes from the employees I worked with that were doing this illegal criminal activity with me. So I have to, again, innumerable forms, find other ways. If we have obtained permission, I couldn't get permission. This woman the other day texted me, Nikki, I want to talk to you. She had done something. She wanted to make an amends. She did not get my permission, so she cannot meet with me to do the amends. I said, no, there's nothing to discuss. I mean, this is radical. So number one, have you obtained permission? Did you get a yes? Number 2, have you consulted with others, the properly appointed authority? Did I talk to my sponsor? Did I see a lawyer? Did I go to the tax accountant? Did I go to my doctor and get armed with the facts about everything? And then number 3, did I ask God to help? See, these are specific, exact instructions. And a lot of people, my sponsor told me to do that. So they run out, they make these amends that injure others. And guess who they injure the most? Themselves. They go from the rooms, they take a pistol and they blow their head off. Or they take a needle and let someone shoot them up and they don't make it back in. I mean, these are facts. So number 1, get a yes. Number 2, go to the properly appointed authority. Number 3, ask God, and do not shrink. We're powerful, and I've been brainwashed to think otherwise. I love you. I hope that was helpful.
Thank you, Nikki, for going through it. I appreciate it. I've got a question here for you when we get to that point, but let's go to see what what David can share with us about these paragraphs.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much, Justin, for your service. Nikki, for your share, as always. I just like to look at a couple of words that are really important to me in this first paragraph of what you read, where it talks about other people being involved. I loved how Nikki broke that down. But let's read down a little ways. It says, we're not to be the hasty and foolish martyr who would needlessly sacrifice others to save himself from the alcoholic pit. If you remember on page 74, if you want to flip back there for just a second, in the middle of the page, about most of the way down, about half or maybe 3/4 of the way down, it says we have no right to save our skin at another person's expense. And that's not only talking about in our 5th step directions, it's most definitely talking about it here. I'm not going to throw somebody under the bus for that. Look at what, back to page 79 and what it says. We know a man who had remarried because of resentment and drinking. Look what came first, resentment. Look what come next, drinking or acting out or love addiction or sex with self or gambling or eating or whatever it may be. It's always going to be the resentment. Resentment, remember, is the common manifestation of self. From it, resentment, stem all forms of spiritual illness, not from the spirit, from self. You know, I'm spiritually sick because of a human condition, and one of its soldiers is self, is resentment. One of the soldiers of self is resentment. So here he says, because of resentment, then drinking, or whatever it may be. Of course, we're not going to pay alimony. I'm not going to give any. Hell, I'm a taker. I'm not a giver. So, and of course, she's going to be mad as well. She's spiritually sick. So she's going to go to court, get an order for my arrest. This happened to me, actually. I commenced our way of life, secured a position, was starting to get my head above water. It would have been impressive heroics. My sponsor told me to take those 2 words right there in the big book. And above that, he said, I want you to write this word, avoid. He said, I want you to avoid impressive heroics, no matter where that shows up in the book, because for you, that's very deadly. Your ego will take that out of context, and you're not a hero. Trust me. So let's look at some of the directions of amends. Next paragraph. We thought he ought to be willing to do that if necessary. If he is in jail, he couldn't provide nothing. So we suggest he write his first wife. There's one of the first innumerable forms, so to speak, of making amends. Writing a letter. We're going to look at that more in depth on page 83. Admitting his faults and asking for forgiveness. Now, there's another direction whenever it comes to making amends. I'm not there to discuss your faults. I'm there to discuss mine. Now, I used to say nowhere in the book does it say that I need to say I'm sorry or that I ask for forgiveness. It's only about righting the wrong. Well, that was a lie. That's not true, because on the prior page, we've seen where we do say we are sorry. Now, and Nikki commented on this in the last episode. It's not a mumbling, remorseful, I'm sorry, you know, I mean, nobody wants to hear that shit. But if I come to these people with a sincere desire to let them know that I am sorry for the behavior that I've done, the wrongs that I've caused, that's a completely different thing. But I need to add to that. I would like for you to forgive me for the actions that I've taken. And I need to know what I can do to make this right. So here's how my amends go today. In fact, I just made a few this last week. I went back through the steps a little while ago and I come up on a few amends. I do that about every year now just to keep my house clean and in order so I don't fall back into darkness and go to sleep, because I've done that many times. And so there were a few names that popped up. It was more of an apology than amends. I really didn't hurt anybody, but I'd said some things that were pretty ugly. And I did it out of meanness, because I felt threatened. So I called the man up and I said, look, can I have a couple of minutes of your time? I'm not going to waste your time. I'm not going to, I'm not here to talk about anybody, or can I just get a couple of minutes of your time? And he said, of course. And so he got on the phone. We talked for a few minutes and I said, look, talking about the prior event that had happened, I said, I was wrong. I said, I regret what happened and I was wrong. And I need you to know that I know that I was wrong. But moreover, I need to ask you what I can do to make this right. And I tell you what, it floored him. He wasn't expecting that call at all. And then I had to call one of his friends, and then I had to call another one of his friends, because I caught them as a group and got them all at once. That's the kind of guy I am. I hit it head on whenever, I don't sneak behind your back and try to hurt you. I do it to your face. So I need to make amends to your face as well. And so, of course, these guys live in different parts of the country, so I can't do that. But anyway, asking forgiveness and admit my wrong was only one small part of it. I need to right the wrong. Look at what the last sentence in that paragraph on page 79 says. The whole situation has long since been adjusted. And that's what's happened. Look at page 80. Before taking drastic action, which is step 9, which will implement other people. In other words, if there were me and someone else into this, I don't need to mention them unless I secure their consent. There's another direction. That's another direction of amends. Don't go out talking to everybody about somebody else unless you have their consent. Now, if I've obtained permission, that's only if. And I've consulted with others, mainly my sponsor, or somebody who has been through this work and absolutely understands amends. I've asked God, there's my prayer. There's another one of those prayers. And the drastic step is indicated, we must not shrink. So here's how it boils down to me when it comes to amends. There's 2 components I need. One is willingness. The other is opportunity. There's times that I've absolutely had the willingness to make it and the opportunity wasn't there. There's other times that the opportunity was there and I did not have the willingness to do it. But when those 2 come together and that person is there, what did it say right there? We just read it. I've asked God, the drastic step is indicated, don't shrink. Right then is the time, no matter what, make the amends. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, man. We walk out of there feeling on a high that no drug, no food, no lust, nothing can ever give us that. That is conscious contact with God. Because for the first time, I'm right with my brother. Bill Wilson described it like this. He said, it seemed that the clean wind of a mountaintop blew through and through. And that's the experience from amends if we do it the right way. So thank you, Justin.
Thank you, David. So I've got a couple of questions here. Let's go to Nikki first. Nikki, you mentioned that you really guide your people that you work with, your sponsees, to put it on paper, put black ink on white paper, put it in black and white. How has actually doing this practice, putting something on paper, whether it be 4th step, whether it be 10th step, whether it be whatever it be, how has that made things more right-sized for you in your life?
Oh, that's a great question. You're such a good listener, Justin. I need that skill too. I guess that comes with practice here. It's it centers in my mind, says page 23 of our big book. So do you know how big things get in my mind? So when I write it down and put it in black and white, says we set it before us in black and white. And this is a life instruction book. So the other day, someone was like so overwhelmed, they called me. It's like number 1, you need to find this like a power of like a PSW for the worker. The mother's getting older, so let's write this down. You need to get a PSW. You don't have a will. These people don't have a will. You're a parent. Like, this is part of your amends. It's called being responsible. See, we attach A lot of people, and I have a talk that I did on Rico 12. It's called Principles in Action. They'll say, well, I'm gonna be more forgiving. What does that look like? Write down what that looks like. You're going to be more forgiving. So what are you going to do? You're going to, oh, that's right. You're going to call your mom. Well, that's too general. Write it down. You're going to call your mom. You don't even talk to her ever. So why don't you once a month? Don't say every day or every week because you're not going to do that. Write it down. When they had all these things, I have all these things I need to do. They have write it down. You have to shrink it down because it's too big. It says without help, it's too much. A lot of the times, and I'm sure we should just have a free range session here, just unmiked and unmuted and just keep talking. But I'm sure you guys find you're a life coach to your sponsees. Like that's what we're doing here. We're life coaching. Justin, don't make me go into that baseball analogy and stuff. Like you're going to run to this stop. You're going to go and you're going to catch, I don't know, do they catch balls or innings or fields? I don't know. But you understand. So that's what we're doing here. It's like, we don't know how to live. And this is a design for living. So if the book says shrink it down, put it on paper because it's very manageable on an 8x11 or even a 3x5 piece of paper, or even on your little notepad, your iPad, than it is in that head of yours. Does that make sense? Doesn't it? Just shrink it down because that's manageable. And the list will always be adding. You'll always be adding to and subtracting because you'll get things done. Why? We're not burning up energy foolishly trying to arrange life to suit our needs. It works. It really does.
Thanks, Nikki. And that leads me into the question I have for David. So Nikki just went through this process. Hey, we need to shrink down the thing that's so big in our mind that seems like an inconquerable mountain that's there. At the end of this reading, it says we must not shrink. David, so why is it important to shrink down the mountain into what the real size it is, but we don't back away from that in fear? We can't shrink. What does that mean and look like to you?
Yeah, for me, that means shrinking the ego. That means shrinking down to being right sized because I can go into these amends and say I'm sorry and ask for forgiveness half-ass, and you say yeah and it's okay, and I walk away feeling good, but I'm still sick. Now I'm going to have an experience and I'm going to have some peace, but first time I see a beautiful lady walking down the street, my mind's going to say, wow, that'd be nice, and I'm really not checking that thought. But if I shrink down and I get humble with these amends and I come to you in a spirit of forgiveness, and I'm not only saying to you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, but I'm saying, what can I do to make this right? And as long as it's not illegal or immoral, I'm going to have to do this. And no matter what that looks like, and sometimes it looks pretty scary, trust me. But for me to shrink down and to do that in that way, and the way that Nikki talked about that she does with her sponsees, I would be completely okay with that with mine. Some guys, they like to try to practice with me before they ever go make it. They act like I'm that person that they're about to make amends to. There's several ways to do that. For me, though, it's more about letting God take the lead. It's about listening intuitively now. I have gained the ability now to hear the voice. And if I'll listen to that, it's going to tell me where to go, what to say, how to do it. All I got to do is follow that lead and not shrink in fear, because if I do, then my ego will take it and it will make the amends for me, and it'll be half-ass. Don't think the ego don't make amends. It does. It does. It's just not lasting. So yeah, very important part here. Very important to stay close to a sponsor and people that have truly, truly done this work the way it's written in our big book. It's about getting right with other people and finding that what Bill called the great reality deep within. Because when I hold you at a distance, I hold this power at a distance. When I let you in, I let this power in. This is about letting you in so that we can both experience the power and heal from the harm done. It's very, very powerful. So thank you, Justin. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Nikki. Now, in regards to takeaways, I'm going to start us off with my takeaway today. When we read about the impressive hero, don't don't if it would have been impressive heroics to avoid that. when I'm in active addiction, I want to beat it myself. I want to jump out of the foxhole I'm in with my guns ablazing, charging up that hill and take this thing all by myself under my own power. But if I've got these impressive heroics, I am going to be cut down way before I get anywhere near the top of that hill to take it. And it will be a big waste. I have got to listen to the commander that's behind me shouting out orders. Hey, this is what I need you to do, and this is where I need you to go. And and that's where I need to avoid those impressive heroics because they never work for me. Anyways, Nikki, what's a takeaway for you?
Ask God. Nikki, what's God? I'm new in program. Ask love. Ask honesty. Ask being responsible. Ask love what you should do. It's real simple, but not easy.
Beautiful. All right, David, what's your takeaway?
Healing. You know, one of the greatest people that I harmed during untreated alcoholism, not just active addiction, was my wife. And for me to come to her and say, look, you know, not only was I wrong, and I know that I was wrong, but I've done a lot of damage here that I'm willing to make right. I'll do anything it takes. Just show me or tell me what I need to do. And, you know, I've had to have that conversation more than one time. But I can tell you it was through her forgiveness and it was through her showing love and walking through the pain in her own life, setting it aside because she knew that I was a man who could recover. She had seen it happen in AA. She knew it could happen in other fellowships. That was the most impressive heroics of anybody that I'd ever seen. Someone that suffered that kind of pain more than one time and continued to forgive me. It's kind of like Hosea, if you read that chapter in the Bible. It's exactly like that. So what happened as a result of that, I became a believer at a deeper level. I really, really did. It charged my recovery in a way that I could have never done on my own. So does God work through other people? Absolutely, he does. Does he heal us? Absolutely, he does. But we got some responsibility here. There's some things that I will not do today, bar none. I just will not do them when it comes to other people. For me to hear the voice of God, there's people that have to leave my life. There's people that cannot come into my life. There's a lot of things that I have to do to hear the voice of God. But one thing I know for sure today is we can heal if you're willing to do this work. So really good to be here, brother.
Thank you, David. Thank you, everybody, for joining with us. To learn more about RICO 12 and what we're doing, how you can support these projects, go to RICO12.com, check out the show notes in the podcast here. And if your higher power is saying, hey, why don't you contribute something to RICO 12, we'd be grateful to take that because we are using that to, well, one, to keep our foundation here, but we're growing in other areas with other projects. So keep coming back, join us in the fellowship of the Spirit, and come trudge this adventurous and amazing road of happy destiny with us. Work it, you are worth it.